Hi, this is Jerry Tice from the Crest Creek Garden Club, Naperville, Illinois. I have read Attack of the Killer Asparagus, loved it, laughed at it, and presented it to my book club, and they also laughed and loved it. You're listening to WCGO Radio 1590 and 95.9 Chicago Smart Talk. The Mike Nowak Show starts in 3, 2, 1.
The most common pirate verb is to be, as in the singular,
This grog be warm.
or the plural.
These apples be rotten.
Note the sentence structure, with the noun always before the adjective.
That there be a buxom wench.
Is wrong,
That there wench be buxom.
is correct. Here is an example of conjugating tenses. The past,
I been plundering.
the present,
I be plundering.
and the future.
I gonna be plundering.
The personal pronoun is either I or me as a possessive, as in me grog, me booty, and me timbers.
It's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio. Flavored with a dash of humor. Welcome to intelligent, irreverent talk about plants and the planet they grow on. Your questions, comments, and participation are always welcome at 877-711-5611.
Good planets are hard to find. Temperate zones and tropic climes. And true currents and thriving seas. Wind blowing through breathing trees. Strong ozone and safe sunshine. Well, good planets are hard to find. Good planets are in the main.
This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com.
Jet streams, perfect air.
And here they are, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
Well, good planets are in the main.
We be broadcasting.
And now, your vowels. Here's how to pronounce your vowels. A, E, I, O, U, R. That's not a vowel. And that's,
Oh, dear.
for those of you who don't know, we are coming up on International Talk Like a Pirate Day. And it's a thing. It's a real thing, and we celebrate it on the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki every year. So we had to make sure that we get. Now, some of you will be hearing this after International Talk Like a Pirate Day. However, that does not mean that you cannot talk like a pirate. Arr.
And they can start planning for next year.
That's true. Would you plug that in? I didn't even get my computer turned on before we started this. Because I was thinking about being a pirate. Arr. So it's really important to do that. It is the 19th. I'm telling you, you could look it up. If you type into your search engine, International Talk Like a Pirate Day, you will find a bunch of stuff. Last year, I think I played the pronunciation guide. A-E-I-O-U, sometimes R.
Wait, this is a gardening and environment show, right?
Yeah, who cares? You know, if you can't talk
This
like
is
a
the
pirate,
fun part of it.
and you could be out in your yard, and you got your trowel in your hand, or you're right now harvesting tomatoes.
Me trowel in me hand.
trowel in me hand. Ar, there be a
Me trowel be in me hand.
tomato.
Arr.
Ar, there's
Andrew's looking at us like, you people are crazy.
me cucumber. Now, Andrew's, no, he's not even, he's doing 50,000 things. Our
Correct.
engineer, Andrew, because
He gets a ding.
Thank you.
he does. He does, because he's had a lot to deal with today already, and it's probably only going to get worse. So we're going to be really, really kind to him. Although I did want to play this. I wanted to tell you, Andrew, I found the archives with all the stuff that we couldn't find last week.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, it is. And I had to do a workaround, and I found even. Oh, I need it up. Thank you.
It's up now.
Prodcom? No, I don't think so. Let's try it again.
I have you up over here. It says it's connected.
It is not. We have no Prodcom. Now, we had that issue before, and see, just when I think we've got it, all sussed. There's this, and I know we had this issue before, and then there was a really quick fix to it, and I can't remember what it was.
We're out in 90 seconds, so I'll look at it.
90 seconds. All right.
We got quick, 70
Oh,
seconds.
you're kidding me. I was like so ready to just play this, and nothing's coming
Prodcom
up.
be having trouble.
Arr, we be playing the machines here, and the machines be not working. We have great stuff on the show today. Let me tell you, we're still in that area of lawn care season where you can put your lawn together. You can plant it and have it ready for the spring. This is the time you want to do it. So I want you to stand by for having Amy Cox, who's a co-owner of ProTime Lawn Seed, based in Portland, Oregon. So they know about cool season grasses. So anybody along the northern tier of the United States will want to, and even the middle, because I was looking at their map, and the cool and the not so cool, the mid.
The cool season.
You've got cool season grasses, you got the warm season grasses, then you got the middle that you have to deal
What
with.
they call the transition zone.
Oh, so you printed that
I
up.
printed it.
Did you give me a copy?
No.
Arr, why not I have a copy there? All right, we'll talk that, but when we start with the south side of Chicago, Lake Calumet, we'll be right back. The Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Soil and plant health don't stop.
But you
at
can have a
harvest.
copy
Now
of-
is the critical time to set up for next season.
But
And the
what?
products to use are from Tineo Biologicals. Whether you're working 500
No,
square
no,
feet
no,
in your
no.
backyard
That's all
or
right.
a 1,000-acre farm, the soil needs are the
Yeah,
same.
that's right.
Feed those
That's what I
plants
had,
with
and-
spectrum and,
you
Nutrien
know,
to get
I
your
played it,
soil
nothing
ready for
came.
spring.
So should
Go
we
to
reboot? I mean, what's going
blazing-star.com.
on?
The soil can make compost
in
from
the
field debris, so
PMNS.
use Biodigester as
That's
well.
where we
Tineo
are, and
products
that's what
from
I do.
Blazing Star. Go to blazing-star.com.
Mosquitoes transmit deadly diseases like Zika and West Nile virus, but Summit Mosquito Dunks kill mosquitoes before they're old enough to bite. Just
Alan!
float an organic
Alan!
mosquito
Alan!
dunk in
Alan!
ponds,
Alan!
bird baths,
Alan!
and
There it is, it's
standing
there.
Ow!
water to
Alan!
kill mosquito
happened
larvae
with
for 30 days or longer. Don't worry,
Yeah?
mosquito
I had it
dunks
on and
won't
off, believe
harm
me.
people, pets, fish,
Yeah,
or
I had it on and
wildlife.
off.
Mosquito
All right, it's just
Dunks,
one of those-
available
all
at
right.
fine garden centers,
Very good
hardware
music.
stores, and online. Visit summitresponsiblesolutions.com.
Hey, this is Peggy. When I speak at local events, people often ask me, aren't you the Peggy in Natural Awakenings ads? And that makes me happy because it reminds me that
I'll-
Chicagoans want to lead healthier lives. And Natural Awakenings magazine helps them do just that. Natural Awakenings is the greenest, healthiest magazine in the Chicago area. Each month, we bring you the latest information about health and wellness, complementary medicine, fitness and exercise, raising healthy kids, and even keeping your pets healthy. You'll find articles about healthy homes, too, including gardening, energy efficiency, and green living. And if you love good food, you'll always find tasty recipes and healthy cooking hints. Check out our monthly calendar. It's full of events to keep you connected. Natural Awakenings is available in more than 1,100 locations throughout the city, as well as suburban Cook, Lake, and McHenry counties.
Do we have Tom on?
It's free. Or visit us at nachicago.com.
No, you got to.
Natural Awakenings. Feel good. Live
All right.
simply.
We lost him. We had him. We lost him.
I'm your ringmaster Sal. Tune into the Sports Circus weeknights at 7 here on WCGO Radio, 1590 AM and 95.9 FM.
Now that's weird.
Hmm.
I had when we were in break, I was playing the Allen and it was working, and now it's not working.
Oh dear.
I don't know what happened, Andrew. Andrew came in, we fixed it. We said, let's make this happen. All right, let's move on. Let's just move on to the show here, because
We want you to shift a little bit. There we go. Now we can see Jerry. Good.
We've got
On
Jerry
Facebook.
Brown in the studio. No, not that Jerry Brown.
No.
He's our Jerry Brown here from the south side of Chicago. And he's a member of the Lake Calumet Vision Committee. Jerry, it's good to have you back in the studio.
Great to be here. I always enjoy the drive up north on a Sunday morning, man. It's the way it's supposed to be when driving on the expressway.
Oh, you mean like not completely packed with cars?
I mean, zooming right through the Jane Byrne interchange, man. That's like something I've never done before.
I know it. Anybody who tries to drive in a major city during rush hour and then does it on an early Sunday morning goes, oh,
wow,
I had no idea. But, you said something on the way up that was kind of interesting outside when we were talking. You're talking about water, and you got to understand, in the Chicago area, and I think a lot of the upper Midwest in the last few days, there's been a lot of rain. And it's almost harking back to the spring, where we had this incredibly rainy and cool season, and you were saying you've never seen so much standing water.
Yeah.
I've been driving in Chicago well over 40 years, and I've never seen so much standing water on our on our streets and on our expressways as we do today. A lot of people try to tell me that it's because of the sewage and the way the rainwater is supposed to drain off. No, it's not. It's the pavement. It's what they're doing with the asphalt. It's not pitching the streets right. So some of these contractors don't have a clue of what they're doing. If you watch some of the processes when they rip the streets up and put them back down, it's like, wait a minute, these things are flat. How's the water supposed to drain off?
Yeah, well, and that's the problem, and we've talked about it on the show that Chicago, and I know there's other parts of the country like this too. It's not on a floodplain,
right?
And yet it's one of the most flooded cities in the country.
Yeah. And it's not just one neighborhood; it's all over the city.
It's all over the city.
So,
and I've had people who address that issue all the time, who work on it specifically. That's their mission. And we've talked about. There's a group that I was just telling people about yesterday. Peggy and I were at an event put on by Faith and Place at the Field Museum in Chicago. It was their green team meeting, and hundreds of people came in just to talk about environmental issues. And I got into a discussion with somebody about that environmental issue, which is, what are we doing with all the water? And why is it that in an area that's not in a floodplain, we get floods all the time? Now, part of it is climate change and the copious amount of rain that we've been getting, but you look at also places like Houston, where they have hurricanes. We don't have hurricanes that stall out in Lake Michigan, okay?
No, not at all.
But those people down there in other places of the country are building homes on areas that have already been flooded, and they know, and yet the rainwater goes away, and what do? The developers come out and they put more homes on there.
Yeah.
Bigger homes.
Bigger, yeah. It's amazing.
And a couple pools.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
I cannot believe we still do the things that are that dumb. But that's not the issue today, because the issue is Lake Calumet.
Yes.
On the south side of Chicago. Have we got Tom Shepard on the phone? And Tom, are you there?
I'm here, Mike. Thanks for having us on today.
It's a pleasure to have you guys back. So I hardly know where to start here, because this is an issue. I know where I'll start with something I put in my blog, and you can go to MikeNowak.net, MikeNowak.net. And by the way, Tom Shepard is also, I'm going to have you guys give a little background on yourselves here. In fact, let's do that. Before I start with my story, Jerry, tell me a little bit about your engagement on the South Side and how you came to be part of this issue.
Okay. I'm basically a concerned citizen. I don't hold any official positions with any anymore within the organizations. I did found and head up the South Area Civic League there for a while, but it's now defunct. But I've been real active in political and civic issues out on the South Side for over 40 years. I took an interest in Chicago politics because once I started looking at it, I was introduced to it by, as a matter of fact, one of the members of the Illinois Port Authority, one of the board members. And when I started looking at things, for myself instead of accepting what I was being told, I saw that things just weren't right. So I got involved. I started learning more and more, and it eventually led me to meet a nice, very knowledgeable gentleman like Tom Shepard, and he told me what was going on, and I said, yeah, this is worth a fight. And that's basically where we are, how I got involved with that. Yeah, that's and I've been involved in a whole lot of other things, but I want to kind of stay on point here,
All right, and now we go to Tom Shepard, and he and I have known each other for a long time. He's been on my show many times. I knew him first when he was with the Southeast Environmental Task Force, but you've been involved in a lot of groups, Tom. Tell me about how things came together for you.
Sure, Mike, thank you. Yes, you're right. I'm a board member with Southeast Environmental Task Force for many, many years, and one of our missions with the task force is open space issues. Early on, we were part of many groups who came together to study Lake Calumet and the local area out here. We've got a lot of brownfields, a lot of wasteland, a lot of empty space, a lot of pristine empty space, too. And we've developed recreational areas, bike paths, walking paths, open space for public enjoyment and for nature. And Lake Calumet is right smack dab in the middle of everything out here. Many people in other parts of the city of Chicago may not realize it, but we call it Chicago's other lake. And it's the largest body of water within the city of Chicago. We're not talking about Lake Michigan here, obviously.
Right.
And we have also Chicago's other river, the Calumet River, out this way too.
Exactly.
So,
and it's okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to finish up by saying that we've had vast marshlands and wetlands out this way, and you guys were talking previously about water issues because of development and whatnot. A lot of that was alleviated, and so Lake Calumet and the wetlands that had been here once would have solved those water issues. But with so much development and so much asphalt covering these marshes and whatnot, and a lot of dumps out here that filled in these vast areas of marshes and wetlands are part of the cause of these water issues and flooding issues that we have.
The southeast side of Chicago actually has been the city's dumping ground for 100 years. Basically, this is how you put it, because this is what you're dealing with. Oh, and by the way, Tom, you're also working with the village of Robbins now, right?
Yes, right. Where they have some flooding issues as well.
Of course. Who doesn't have flooding issues around here? And so, and you're, from what I understand, Director of Environmental Recycling. Is that correct?
Yes, we're developing a recycling program there. And just to finish up, if I may, Mike, along the way, when we formed the Lake Calumet Vision Committee, and along the way came to meet Jerry and a number of other community activists, up to 40 different community representatives who formed the community part of our Lake Calumet Vision Committee, and Jerry's among them. And we're grateful for guys like him that stepped up to the plate and are willing to take on the powers that be to try to do something at Lake Calumet, where they have over 1,600 acres of open land. And we've had enough pollution, and now it's time to turn the corner on that and develop something that would be nice out here and open for the community, that could really use it.
Absolutely. And that takes us back to what I was going to start with, which is, I want to say, 15 years ago, I was talking to Suzanne Malik McKenna, who you folks know at one point was commissioner of the Department of the late great Chicago Department of the Environment, and a note to our new mayor, Lori Lightfoot. I haven't heard a word since you got in office about whether the department, you used it as a campaign promise.
Yep.
I don't see the department. I didn't hear on day one you saying, and my new commissioner of the Department of the Environment is
nothing.
Whoever
has not arrived yet.
Nothing.
So I'm getting we're getting a lot of crickets chirping here. Just saying, just gotta get that out there. So I was talking to Suzanne Malik McKenna back in the day, and I want to say like it was 15 years ago, and she said, you got to come down. We got great plans for the Lake Calumet area. This is going to be great. We're going to transform this area. Okay, that was 15 years ago. And then we move forward, and Daley's no longer mayor, and now we have Rahm Emanuel. And, guess what? Because I know you were part of this, Tom. There's suddenly in 2014, there's a Millennium Reserve, and we're going to take all this area, and guess what? It's going to be great. We're going to fix it up, folks, and we think it's going to work. And all we need is the governor. In fact, we get the governor. We get Rahm, and we get Quinn in there, Governor Pat Quinn. And we're going to make this happen. Guess what? There's an election. Yes. Oh, my goodness. We no longer have a Democratic governor. We got a Republican one, and he says, nope, we don't really want to do anything at Lake Calumet. So now we got to wait 4 years. So here we are, 2019. Hey, guess what? We got a new mayor. We got a new governor. And great things are going to happen at Lake Calumet, except when you see the headlines in the papers, the great things might be a casino. Who knows?
Yeah.
And that doesn't sound like open areas to me. That sounds like a casino. That sounds like, I don't know, a money trap, a money pit. I'll just lay it out. I'm not a fan of casinos. Not a fan.
You know, I think there's some opposition from the board of the Illinois Port Authority to development that would be beneficial to the community.
You mentioned the Port Authority.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't think that folks understand. Let's figure out their relationship to Lake.
Who are they and what are they?
Yeah. So Tom or Jerry. Tom, you want to do this?
I'll do that, and then I'm going to pass it back to Jerry because I know that he's chomping at the bit to talk a little bit about the board because he knows them intimately and how things developed and came to be. Because you laid out some good history there, talking about Suzanne McKenna and Malik McKenna, and when she was a commissioner of the Environment Committee, or what do they call it?
The Department of the Environment.
Of the Environment. Had she been able to continue, and under Mayor Daley, I really think that we would be, at this point, we would be where we wanted to be with developing and opening up Lake Calumet to the public. When Rahm Emanuel came in, and this is where Jerry will pick up on this story, he disbanded the department and all the plans that Suzanne had put in place and gathered up groups like Southeast Environmental Task Force and the Calumet Ecological Park Association and on and on and on, and our partners downtown, Friends of the Parks, Alliance for the Great Lakes, Open Lands, etc., Sierra Club, and others. We were on the road to really developing the southeast side into something that would have been fantastic and cleaned up a big mess that we've had here. Unfortunately, when Ron came in, he had other plans, and that just put an end to what we wanted to see. And also, you already talked about Governor Quinn. He was a good friend of the environment and really had the same goals and ideas in mind that we had out here, but it didn't happen because he didn't get that next term. So, that's basically it. But to make to help people to understand what the Port Authority is, Mike, and finish up on that the property and the Port District properties are city and state owned. The Port District is its own entity that was formed by the legislatures of the state of Illinois, and half the board appointees are appointed by the mayor of Chicago and half by the governor of the state of Illinois. And they regulate the shipping and port facilities out at Lake Michigan and at Lake Calumet. And they administer over the 1,600 acres at Lake Calumet, of which probably the majority of it is just wasteland. And another big chunk is a very expensive golf course, and I'm sure we can get into that too, because
Tom and I know is that we cannot afford to play there. Okay.
And you were saying something about helicopters bringing dolphins.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yeah, exactly, from downtown. And the thing about that, Tom, it's really a shame. You mentioned the port operations out there, which are producing absolutely no profit whatsoever. That entire port authority, the only profit that's being generated is by the golf courses out there. With all those other operations,
they do some rental or something.
Yeah,
they have rental. However, in some of the material that we found on this, that I saw a budget of like they bring in 4.8 and spend 4.1 or something like that million dollars.
Yeah.
And I just want to make one thing clear. We're going to have to break and then we'll come back.
Okay.
So as Tom pointed out, that the Port Authority owns the land.
Correct.
But it's a joint venture between the state and the city, with some of the board members appointed by the state and some appointed by the city. So you got to get those guys working together. But it seems like it's kind of a mysterious body.
It really is.
That
It really is. And we'll talk about that.
I suspect there's not a lot of transparency there. Okay, we're talking about the Lake Calumet on the south side of Chicago. The Mike Nowak Show. Peggy Malecki will be right back.
Okay.
Gotta think about you. I just can't live without you.
We got Jerry playing Jerry's playing the keyboards here. I didn't know. You a musician by any chance, Jerry?
Only in my mind.
In your mind.
Only in my mind.
Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. That is Jerry Brown from the south side of Chicago. We got Tom Shepard also from the south side of Chicago. He is out there in
the wilds of Chicago area.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll get right back to them in a second. Got a minute for your trees? Bartlett tree experts and I know that people hate to do soil tests. How do we know? Well, when's the last time you did a soil test?
Arr.
I rest my case. That said, fall is a great time to fertilize trees and shrubs after you get a soil test. With cooler temperatures and regular rainfall, root development is usually vigorous at this time of year. As roots grow, they can absorb nutrients, which are then translocated to the leaves or stored until next spring and then transported to the leaves. The folks at Bartlett Tree Experts are interested in both tree health and the environment. Their goals are to provide the nutrients your plants need without oversupplying those nutrients and to eliminate nutrients that are not needed. Soil nutrient samples are recommended to determine how to fertilize. If a soil analysis has not been conducted within the last 3 years, ask your Bartlett arborist representative to collect a sample and send it to their laboratory. See? It's out of your hands. Contact an arborist representative because every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We're talking about Lake Calumet on South Side. Boy, all the good questions start coming out in the break, right, Jerry?
Yes, absolutely.
Because, we started talking about who owns the land, how the decisions get made.
Yes.
What folks need to know about it is, and you guys have both, Tom Shepard and Jerry, have alluded to this. This lake is sitting there, and right now, except for the golf course that we can't afford, it's surrounded by barbed wire.
Yes.
You can't get in there.
Right.
So that's the other thing. There's
barbed wire with razor wire at the top of it.
Right. Exactly.
A 6-foot chain link.
Not only that, there's 100 years of degradation, chemical use,
yes,
shipping, results of using it as a port as well. I mean, all of this stuff that goes into trying to recover this land and make it available to human beings.
Mm-hmm.
You would think that because it's this great open space, and as Tom pointed out, the other lake in Chicago, that we would want to do this, but we continue to sit on it, or at least the powers that be continue to sit on it, and things do not move forward.
It's funny you mentioned that, making it available for human use. The board has a plan to make it available for human use, but not for the general public's use. We attended a presentation by Clayton Harris, who's the president of the board. He came out and explained to the group, the Lake Calumet Vision Committee, what their plans were. And they want to add another. There's already two 18-hole golf courses out there. They want to add another golf course. There was talk about it, making a marina. And what they would do is they would clean up all the chemical waste out there that's detrimental to human beings.
Yeah.
But that would be so they can build a marina.
And make money off of it.
And make money off of it. And the fat cats, there were no talk. And he basically rejected the idea of setting aside the 282 acres that was agreed on by both Pat Quinn and Rahm Emanuel.
When it almost happened in 2014.
Exactly. He basically rejected the entire idea of that. That would get in the way of their plans to make money. So what I did is I took the research that the group had done. They've been in operation for about 17, 18 years. I only came aboard in late 2016, and I did my own research. And I found out some interesting things. I found out that they were a municipal corporation in and of itself, and that's kind of important when it comes to the idea of the casino. But I also found out that they weren't making any money other than on, like you said, it's a minuscule amount of money that they're making off of the port operations. But the whole idea of setting something aside for the community is just something they don't want to do. So I went and I prepared a statement, and I presented it to the board. And the chairman, Mike Ford, after I finished my statement, he treated me as you guys were talking about talking like a pirate. It was like dealing with a pirate. It was like dealing with. I mean, seriously, he treated me as if I came out there and insulted them because I was requesting something, public land, to be used by the public.
Yeah,
you know?
Right.
And they
well, that has been the point all along.
That's it.
It's you guys because. You have to go across the highway,
yes.
But there are neighborhoods there that have needed this kind of recreational area for a long, long time.
And not only that, Mike, I mean, the nature out there. I mean, if you think about 7 or 8-year-old kids taking trips out there and seeing all this nature the way God made it, you never know what kind of thing that would spark in a child.
Well, we have bald eagles out there now.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Children in Chicago and Oakdale Gardens and Rosewood, they've never seen anything like that.
And when I say that it's been degraded, and maybe, Tom, you can jump into this as well. There's 100 years of industrial use there, but land is remarkable, and water are remarkably resilient.
Yes.
They bounce back.
Yes.
And if we give them an opportunity and help them along, that could happen, right, Tom?
It certainly could happen, and one of the very unfortunate things is with all of the grant money that has been available over the past couple decades now, since they set aside the Great Lakes Restoration Funds and Chicago's Two River Funds and other funds that are available for cleanups and for clean water and whatnot. The Port District has never, ever applied for any of these funds. The only funds that they've applied for and have achieved are like Homeland Security, so that they could enclose the entire place, like Peggy said, putting razor wire around there. When we were kids, we had open access out there. There were a whole generation of fishermen that would go out there and take fish from there, and hunting and just exploring and hiking and whatnot back there. And in recent years, they've made it more and more of a closed club, like Jerry said, and their plans do not include opening it to the public. Now, Clayton Harris did say that they would put some of the property off to open land, but their idea could be like 6 acres of lawn for a hotel, and
or
you know where that goes, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. But what we're really talking about is something that could be useful and beneficial, and something that the public could really enjoy. The lake could be used for rowing competition, fishing,
yes.
Hiking operations out there. They're talking about bike paths possibilities, and
but that,
Mike, you've been out there with us.
Yeah, I have been. You guys have been talking about all of that stuff for 20 years or 30 years. I mean, this has been going on. You sent me a timeline dating back to 1981 where people starting to talk about plans going at Lake Calumet. So we got about 5 minutes left. So the question is, how does this move forward? What is the Lake Calumet Vision Committee doing, and how do people get engaged, and how do we actually take down the barbed wire, take down the razor wire, and open this up to the public?
Well, let me say a couple things and let Jerry talk too. But I'll say that this coming Tuesday, on the 17th of September, at Harborside International Golf Course. They have a nice banquet room there. They are going to deliver their second annual State of the Port. And this is an opportunity for the public. It's open to the public for them to come in and voice their opinions. At their first one last year, a lot of us came out and talked to Clayton Harris, who's the chair. No, he is actually the director. The chairman is a fellow named Michael Ford that was appointed by Mayor Emanuel. And so people can come out on Tuesday and voice their opinions. We plan to be there. A number of our organization people will be there, and people from the public and community groups to tell them that we insist that they set some of this property aside for public enjoyment, public use, recreation, passive recreation, and for nature. So,
and that's from
that's
5:30 to 7.
All right, so this is from 5:30 to 7. What's the date again?
Tuesday, September 17th at Harborside International Golf Center.
And this is the Port Authority is having this meeting. You're nodding, Jerry.
Yeah,
so.
right.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
putting, posting it on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right,
here's your opportunity to say, can we stop? You raise your hand very politely. Say, can we stop dithering? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Can we actually?
Yeah, can we make something happen?
Can we get this done finally and open up this beautiful land? Used to be beautiful, can be beautiful again, and that's already filled with nature. And one of the great things about barbed wire is that it keeps people out, but it keeps nature around. Yeah, and it keeps people from messing with nature.
Yeah.
So nature's there doing its thing already.
Exactly.
So all right, so that's one way to get involved. Yes, Jerry.
Also, I believe in political activism, and nothing happens without the vote. All of these guys that sit on that board, which I can't say for certain, but I'm sure that that's where the majority of the opposition to our idea is coming from. And with those guys, I don't know exactly how long their terms are. I don't know if they can be ended immediately. But if we put the proper people in place, as far as voting, as far as elections go, maybe we can get some change there and maybe get some movement in the proper direction that will benefit not just the people who they're looking out for, but the general public.
So you're talking about the Port Authority Board or the aldermen in the area?
Well, again, these appointments to the board are made by the governor and by the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have a mayor who said, and like you said, we've seen no activity in that direction yet, who said that she's all for it. And now we have a Democratic governor again. Maybe we can approach him again and see something about maybe either putting pressure on the existing board to back up off of this opposition that they're giving to our idea, or maybe replace them. And that kind of pressure has to come from the community. Now,
Well, are the board members right now, are they all appointees from previous administrations?
Yes,
so
they are.
this is a point where you could bring in new blood.
Yeah, and that's my vision. That's what I see.
I mean, I don't know how long the terms are.
I don't either, and that's something I haven't looked at because I didn't anticipate this opposition to continue to go and be as strong as it is. But they seem adamantly opposed to anything that the Vision Committee is.
Well, and then there's this idea that we've got a minute here. Keeps being floated about a casino. I don't know. If you're going to do a casino, just do it downtown, okay? Because that's where it's going to. That's where all the money is anyway. If you want to do it, bring it. Why are they always putting casinos in the poor neighborhoods? Is what I want to know.
Yeah, I don't have a clue.
Although that's not true because there's rivers out in the suburbs,
Yeah,
so that's not a poor neighborhood. All right, Jerry Brown, thank you so much for being here in studio.
Welcome.
Tom
Great,
Shepard,
glad to be here.
Thank you. We'll continue to follow this. It's an interesting.
To say the least.
Issue, that never gets resolved, and we hope it does show up at the meeting Tuesday, 5:30
to 7.
All right, we'll be back. The Mike Nowak
Thanks so
Show
much,
with
guys.
Peggy Malecki.
Thank you, Mike.
City Grange.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
A bunch of different things like water and flooding and insects. We were talking about that, and it reminded me because somebody was asking
Dragonflies and
Dragonflies.
butterflies
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you said that because then I contacted Doug Tarrin from the Peggy Nodabart Nature Museum about dragonflies. And because we had a question about, are they migrating now? Because we know monarchs at this time of year begin to migrate.
They have started, yep.
I showed you the video I took of the monarch in my backyard. That guy or gal was charging up I mean, just sucking the nectar out of my heptacodium tree. And if you don't know what a heptacodium is, that's okay. Nobody else does either.
The monarchs do.
The monarchs know. And the bees. Oh, my goodness, the bees love heptacodium because it blooms at this time of year. It's called Seven Suns tree. I don't know why. Okay, if you look it up.
Like S-U-N-S?
No.
S-O-N-S.
S-O-N-S. I'm
Like
pretty sure.
Seven brides for seven brothers.
Well, see, and
sons.
I have to be careful because I always think it's seven brothers. I go, no, that's the movie. In fact, I'm going to just, let's see, seven. I'm going to make sure I get it right. Seven Suns tree. Yeah, it popped right up. It is, yep, Heptacodium. Heptacodium miniconoides. Conioides. Coney Island.
Well, I like the Morton Arboretum's description. Seven sunflower, which is really a large shrub or small tree. Really a large shrub.
It's a really, it is because it doesn't get to be terribly tall, maybe 20, 25 feet, so it's a good understory, but you need the sun because it has these beautiful white, very fragrant blooms, and the blossoms are dropping all over my backyard right now, which I really love. And this is an interesting story, actually, about this tree because it pulled a Lazarus on me. Arr. A Lazarus. It died, and then it popped back, and now it's thriving again. You know, the old trunk is dead there, and I left it because the birds love it, and critters love it. And the squirrels.
And it looks cool.
It looks cool, and the squirrels sit on it and chow down on whatever they find in my yard, like my bulbs. And
do you leave little salt shakers out for them?
No, I do not. Well, they maybe give them pepper so they little squirrel sneezes go on. And although they do chatter at my cat, they do not like it when my cat's in the yard. But the heptacodium is just blooming like crazy, and so this butterfly came to me the other day, and was so robust and beautiful and large and seemed really healthy, and then it fed on the tree for a while, and then it went up way up into the air, was like power diving, and I thought, ooh,
it's on a sugar rush.
This butterfly is headed to Mexico right now. So that's one of the things you see it this year. So yesterday we talked to folks about dragonflies as well, and some said, well, are the dragonflies migrating? And some dragonflies migrate, like the monarch. Not all butterflies migrate, not all dragonflies migrate, but some do. And Doug Tarrin is he is an expert. He's
entomologist.
He's an entomologist, biologist at Peggy Nodebart Nature Museum, and so he's going to be on the show in the next couple of weeks. And we will ask him for a butterfly, dragonfly report for 2019, because I want to know what his observations and his fellow researchers are seeing this year with butterflies and dragonflies and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm looking on journeynorth.org right now, which is one of the sites that tracks them. And they said a lot of their observers are reporting large numbers of migrating monarchs already. They're moving along the shorelines and the skies coming out of the northeast. So they've started to move out of the northeastern states already, and I think the Midwest as well. And the reports this year seem to be showing a lot of monarchs on the move.
That's good. What is it called? And I'm going to forget this, and I know I sound like an idiot, but when they mass, like on a tree.
Roost?
The roost? All right. I want to see a monarch roost. I've never seen a monarch roost where you have hundreds or thousands of monarchs on one tree or one area, and then they up and they go.
JourneyNorth.org has photos from Ohio and Ontario, South Dakota, of roosts up in cottonwoods and other large trees right now. Yeah. I've never seen them either. That would be amazing to see.
Right, and so that led me to remember an article I saw earlier this week about spiders. And, of course, everybody... spiders. Everybody's unnaturally afraid of spiders, pretty much everybody. And I was talking to somebody at the conference yesterday and saying, just tolerate them if you can.
Or escort them out the door.
Because spiders are beginning to creep into homes, according to this article. A guy we had on the show couple of years ago, Alan Lawrence, who's the associate curator of entomology at Peggy Notabard. So he works with Doug
Right.
Tarrant. So they're the bug guys over there, and he says that at this time of year, some spiders, they can be larger because they're, they've been around all summer. Especially wolf spiders can stand out.
They get pretty big, yeah.
Yeah, because they're fully grown, and because there are more flying insects around for spiders to feast on. More prey means more spiders. That's kind of the way it works. Wolf spiders are common in our area. They can be quite large. They're gray or brown, a bit fuzzy, can be as big as 10 centimeters or as small as just a few millimeters. Those spiders don't build webs, though they can make burrows, and they're active hunters who crawl on the ground. And then there are the gray cross spiders, also called bridge spiders. And they're big, conspicuous orb weavers, says Lawrence. They're most common by water because they feed on insects that live in water like mosquitoes and gnats or midges. So this is the time of year, and as I was telling folks yesterday, spiders are the good guys, and that's what they say in this article too. If you spot a spider, it says here, try not to freak out. Don't just reach for the book.
No,
don't do that, because they eat pests you don't want in your home. So they suggest what you suggest, which is place a cup over the spider, slide a piece of paper underneath, and carry the spider outside. Or I'd just carry it into another part of the house where I can't see it.
Well, do that in the winter.
Yeah,
Because otherwise they're going to freeze when they go outside. But right now, out the door.
Yeah, and as I say, they're the good guys. So don't, if you see a cockroach, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Now then you get the book in.
Well, then you wonder why it's there too. But.
Yeah, and then you wonder if there's one, are there going to be more?
Oh dear.
Yikes. So.
Well, it's actually kind of interesting. If you have a lot of webs in your yard, you've got a good ecosystem going because there's plenty of insects for them to feed on. I would think if you don't have a lot of spiders, you probably don't have a lot of insects.
So this is why when I'm walking out the door towards the garage and I get a face full of web on the way out, wow, I hate it when that happens because
it happens all the time.
I grow my plants too close together. And then the spiders go across, and they build the web across.
It's a spider party.
And they catch human beings sometimes right in the middle of it.
And they go,
Arr, we are spiders. Spiders be us. Okay. All right, it's the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Stick around. We've got a lot more to come. Check us out on Facebook. I guess YouTube is up, too.
Yeah.
How cool is that? We'll be back.
Welcome to the second hour of the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. This hour is brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Nowak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, root and bacon. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene.
No, come on.
Oh,
Alan!
There we are.
Does he have a little pirate hat on?
Alan!
You turned that off, didn't you, Andrew, for a second?
Alan! When the display was on, I did.
There we go. But we found it, and now it's back to working, so we can do that. And we just a reminder to everybody.
Don't be a jerk.
All right. Well, what are you waving to?
I was just going to tell him something about Facebook, but we're good.
No, don't tell him anything about Facebook. Nobody cares. I mean, I don't mean you. I mean about Facebook. Who cares about Facebook? Listen to us.
People watching us on Facebook.
Well, at least we're there again this year.
And we're back on YouTube, too, this week.
Yeah, whatever. Okay,
well,
sure.
Well, yes. For those who don't recall, last week we were old school. We were AM and FM only.
And streaming.
And
it
streaming,
was
and
funny
tune
because
in.
it's like I said, we're totally old school, and you said, oh, of course we're streaming on everything. And it's like busted my whole line of logic there. So.
But that's still old school. Streaming's so old school.
Is it? Yeah. Is it now? Is that? I thought AM radio was old school. Anyway, welcome
AM's
back
retro.
to the show. And so we've got sound effects. We were talking about different animals in the first, insects in the first hour.
What is these animals? Is them mongooses?
Yeah, we didn't talk about mongooses at all. But I want to talk about chickens, and I don't even have
chickens.
Oh, wait, what?
Chickens.
We need to bring up the chicken music. So tell us, there's a next Saturday and Sunday.
We have
the Windy City
Coop Tour, 9th
Coop
annual.
and Eco Yard Tour. It's
backyard livestock and eco yards.
Exactly. So I'm sure you have that information. What's going on there?
Is the 9th annual tour. We got this from our friend Martha Boyd. Saturday, September 21st and Sunday, September 22nd next weekend from 10 to 1 and 1 to 4, so there's a lunch break in the middle. It's basically a free self-guided tour of people's chicken and backyard livestock raising operations around the city. There's 22 sites around Chicago. It's self-guided. You can get a map and tour any or all of them. You do need to they suggest you check just to make sure in case there's some issue between now and then. But it's all at chicagochickens.org.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we got that information out because we did reach out to Martha, but we didn't hear back from her. So, but we know she'd appreciate that we were telling you this because you can get a map if you go online. We should post this on our Facebook page as well, Ellie. Mm-hmm. The 2019 Windy City Coop and Eco Yard Tour. Can you send that along to her? Do you already have it?
I'll send her the PDF.
Let's make sure that gets up there too, because there's a map of tour locations and all the site info. Do not bring your dogs or other pets. Don't bring your mongooses. Don't bring any of that stuff.
Don't show up expecting to use the bathroom at someone's home. Things like that. This is it's tour etiquette.
It's kind of rude, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tour etiquette. It's you're visiting people's homes, but you're looking at their chickens and their other livestock. It's actually going to be in 17 of Chicago's 50 wards, so it's a pretty large
area. It's getting bigger and bigger each year, it seems.
It says you can learn about gardening, composting, permaculture, and rainwater harvesting as part of a sustainable urban lifestyle that's integrating chickens and other backyard livestock.
And it's co-sponsored by Angelic Organics Learning Center and the Chicagoland Chicken Enthusiasts. And of course, when Martha's on the show, I usually play this. But she's not here, but I'm playing it anyway because... and I'm not playing the Hen House 5.
No, I noticed.
It's
+2.
I've got it there someplace. It goes on too long, though. This is pretty short.
Yeah. That's short?
Short enough. I'll listen to the whole thing. I'll play it again if you want.
So chicagochickens.org has all of the information.
chicagochickens.org. Well, that's good. And what made me think of this, of course, is the fact that you and I have been spending all of our free time in the last couple of weeks looking at gardens because the Chicago Excellence in Gardening Awards are about to be announced.
Drum roll. Do we have a drum roll?
Well,
no,
you have to do a drum roll for about a week because they're probably all the winner names will come out in about a week. We had a lot of gardens, and we had to slog through it, and it's really hard work, believe it or not, because we send out our judges, and then they send us a report, and then we have to look at it and go, okay, let's compare, let's map this out and see who makes the cut, who doesn't.
And who gets special awards.
But we've started giving out the rain barrels, courtesy of Commissioner Kim Dubouclet from the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District of Greater Chicago. We were giving away 5 rain barrels just for entering. We've started pulling names, and we've had 2 winners already. We'll have another one tomorrow, and 3 more this week in total. So that's kind of cool.
And all of the City Grange $15 gift certificates for entering have also been sent out over time.
Yeah. So it's all coming to a head, and the big award ceremony is going to be on October 12th. So if you entered a garden, you haven't heard anything, guess what? You're going to hear very, very soon. All right. It's just exactly the middle of September, which means there's still time to work on your lawn. That's why we have our next guest here, Amy Cox, co-owner of ProTime Lawn Seed. We're going to talk to her about some special mixes. Maybe we're even going to help Peggy. We'll be back. The Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki.
Is that like the pollinator chorus?
Yeah, it's the Olympic. We're going to be having our Olympic competition in lawn starting, beginning right now. Welcome to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. Wait. Thank you very much. Welcome back. And several weeks ago, we had a guy on the show named Ryan Anderson from Midwest Grows Green, which kind of came out of the Midwest Pesticide Action Center, which is no longer around, but that work is being carried on by an organization called Midwest Grows Green. And he started telling me, I don't even know if it was on air, it might have even been off air, about working with this company on the West Coast called ProTime Lawn Seed, about putting in some lawns in the Midwest. And I was kind of surprised because I've talked about lawn care and especially natural lawn care forever, for at least 22 years, and I had never heard of this company. And I was kind of stunned that I hadn't. So I said, Ryan, you got to give me this information. And I immediately wrote to them. He gave me a contact person. Amy Cox was one of them, and she is with us on the Skype machine right now from Portland, Oregon. Are you in Portland, Amy?
We are, in our southeast side.
Okay, fantastic. I consider, at least I used to, back in the 90s, I directed a play in Portland, all right? My background is actually theater and showbiz. Horticulture came later on. But at the time...
Who the guest?
Wow. All right, give... all right. All I got to say to you, Amy, is...
Don't be a jerk.
Okay, there we go.
And in case you're wondering about our International Talk Like a Pirate Day is coming up on the 19th.
Yes.
Okay.
So, Amy, can you give us an R? R. There you go. Nicely.
She gets a ding. Okay, she's done R-ing for the hour.
So, Amy, I wrote to you immediately and said, okay, you got to be on the show because we're up against a deadline here. As I tell folks, fall is the best time to work on your lawn, right?
That's right.
That's
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, folks have this idea because all the ads are in the spring when things green up. I laugh. I laugh at people who if they don't understand when the big chemical companies come out and say, hey, you got to put fertilizer down right now because that's the only way your lawn will green up. And I tell folks, you know what? That's what turf does in the spring. It greens up, okay? So especially putting it on 4 times a year, I say is usually pretty ridiculous. So and the other thing is, so if you're really going to work on your lawn, don't pay attention to those commercials then. Gear towards the end of August, beginning of September. That's when you want to get your work done. Now, why is that a good time to work on a lawn, especially cool season grasses, Amy?
Yeah, it's the perfect time to put overseed or put in a new lawn. You want to make sure you do it about 6 weeks, at least 4 weeks before your first hard frost. But in doing so, you're going to get it in before going into winter. It's going to be established. And then over winter, it kind of works on that root development. And so it comes out in the spring, much more drought tolerant, resilient to the hot temperatures of summer to come.
So that's the answer, the short answer, and that's very concise. Thank you, Amy. My question to you is, how come I haven't heard of you guys? And I know that you and your partners took over this company about 5 years ago, right?
We did. We're actually, ProTime is celebrating its 40th year this year, and 5 years now as new owners. And, I think we saw something just remarkable in the offerings that they had, the different types of products, mainly the Eco-Lawn seed mixes. We also hadn't heard of it before. Longtime gardeners and landscape professionals here, and we just thought it was a brilliant idea. And sure enough, as we kind of got the word out and used more, our website and outreach to people, I think the reaction has been very, very strong that people are looking for land alternatives for their green spaces and species diversity and nitrogen fixation, so we don't have to use fertilizers. You know, there's a lot of great benefits to EcoLawn.
Yeah, and you're saying all the right things there. And we should note that you are originally from Illinois, though.
I am.
Yes. So welcome back to the folks in Illinois, transplanted to the Pacific Northwest. And the thing that had caught my attention when I was talking to Ryan Anderson about this several weeks ago was your dog lawn, okay? The lawn that, because I've gotten this question for 20 years. People say, how can I have a lawn and a dog in the backyard at the same time? And I basically say, you can't. Choose one, all right? You guys put the lie to that. You say, no, you really can do something like that, can't you?
Yes, and you're talking about our dog park mix. We really love this mix. It's got microclover in it, and it's also got turf-type tall fescue, which is that wider bladed grass, very deep-rooted, very upright growing. And then we put a little bit of perennial rye in there. That's for quick germination. You know, if there are holes created from that, your best friend running around on that lawn, it kind of helps to self-repair some of those areas. So yeah, the dog park mix has been very popular, and the tall fescue and the clover also do a pretty good job of repelling those negative effects from pet urine. They kind of shed it off and don't spot as easily as some other types of lawn grasses.
You guys have a sense of humor as well, because the mix includes turfway tall fescue, bloodhound tall fescue, foxhound tall fescue, and
my dog would be right at home there.
Yeah, really. And the thing, and by the way, folks, if you want it, you can check out all the different kinds of lawn seeds they have at ptlawnseed.com, and then go to on the home site. Well, you go to categories on the left there, and that one's under ecology and alternative, because that's kind of alternative. All right, and then you've got conventional, but even under your conventional lawn seeds, there's a lot that I consider not so conventional. But you put lots of fescues in these lawn mixes. You put clovers in them. You put things in that the big boys are going to tell you are weeds, and you have to ignore those guys when they say that. And when they say how to get rid of clover in your lawn, I say, why are you trying to get rid of clover in your lawn? Because it's a nitrogen fixer. Explain how that works, Amy.
Yeah, well, I probably don't know the complete science on that, but certainly clovers are amazing. You know, they can pull nitrogen out of the air and fix nitrogen into the soil. They feed themselves, and they can feed the companion grasses around them, sometimes flowers and other forbs. And what that does is that it keeps the lawn kind of just in its ultimate health, if you will. You know, it's self-regulating, so that you don't need to apply those fertilizers. And we sure know from experience, a lot of people apply fertilizers improperly, or, you know, too frequently, or maybe not enough. But the clovers are going to
not so much that one.
put it down just right.
Yeah, well, and as you mentioned, too much nitrogen is a source of pollution in our water. It causes algae blooms along with phosphorus. It causes dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico and other places in the world. And when you get a bag of fertilizer that's 28% nitrogen by weight, you know most of it's not going to be absorbed by the plant. It's going to end up in our water table. So you guys have come along, and you're doing what we used to do 50, 60 years ago, which was put clover seed in a small amount in our mixes, except you're doing it more sophisticated. You've got that micro clover, and I started talking about micro clover, I want to say 15 years ago, and then it kind of disappeared.
And what is micro clover versus regular clover?
Amy, how about answering that question?
Yeah, well, microclover is a dwarf variety of Dutch white clover. It is a proprietary seed, so it is trademarked. But it is a dwarf variety, and one of the things that we like about it, other than just the nitrogen fixing, which all clovers do, but it also has a different growth habit. It spreads evenly, unlike Dutch white clover, which might be more of a clumping type. And then it also does bloom less over time. So it really makes a great additive to lawn seed mixes. It mows very well. In fact, it does need to be mowed. I think there's some misconception about that. You do need to mow it or line trim it occasionally to keep it very small. But it looks just great, evenly distributed throughout a lawn.
Well, as Mike was saying, 50, 60 years ago, we used to have a lot of clover, and then we got away from it.
We actually have an article from the New York Times, 1912, just suggesting to people that, you know, you put clover in the lawn. I think it was just something everybody did as a matter of course. And then later, kind of big chemical came along and changed all that for us.
Well, they did, and I just have this. I imagine this meeting sometime in probably the 50s or 60s. Some cigar smoking guys in a room going "arr," like pirates, and saying, "I know what'll make people crazy. Let's tell them that clover's a weed." Yeah, and then we'll tell them
sell a lot of stuff with that.
and we'll tell them how to kill it, and we'll tell them that the only thing they can have are these Kentucky bluegrass blades. Yeah, that "arr." And you're sighing there, Amy, when I say that.
Because she knows it's true.
That's right. I think a lot of what we're doing now is just changing what people's conception is of a lawn, you know, and I like to talk about it more as a green space. You know, how do you use it? And then from there, we can talk about all the different species variety that you might put there just to make the space greener, if you like the green, and maybe draw some pollinators if you want to do that. But just make it more useful, but thus fewer inputs with your time and also with fertilizer and water.
By the way, that's Amy Cox, who is the co-owner of ProTime Lawn Seed, based in Portland, Oregon. Again, if you want to get more information, go to their website. You can go to mine. I got a link, but it's easier just to go to theirs, ptlawnseed.com. You mentioned the microclover being proprietary. Is that your proprietary or somebody else's proprietary?
No, that would be DLF International Seed.
Okay.
So we are a distributor of that seed.
Right. Are they the only ones doing microclover, or are there other types of microclover out there?
They are the only ones.
There
are other dwarf clovers, I think, but I couldn't speak to that. I'm not sure, you know, the science behind some of the other seeds that people might be talking
Well, it's
about.
interesting. Like I said, we were talking about it a decade and a half ago with somebody who was working on it out here, and then I approached him a few years later. I said, "Hey, how's that microclover doing?" He goes, that didn't really work out that well for us. So it's got to be tricky, is what I would think.
I think it is tricky, and in fact, right now we're looking at a shortage of it for this coming year.
Really?
So that's, you know, it's the nature of being in basically farming. There are crop failures, there are trends in seed, and, you know, there's only so much of it to go around.
So which mixes will that affect if you've got a shortage of seed? And is that for 2019 or 2020 as we move forward?
It's really going to be into the next crop year. So until we get we have, you know, the crops coming in now, but we know that it's, you know, we're going to have a little bit of a shortfall on some of that. But our mixes, the Dog Park mix and the R&R EcoTurf, those are microclover seed mixes. And then we have a whole cast of other seed mixes that will include clover as well, that also do, you know, the same nitrogen fixing and all that great stuff.
Well, let's talk about some of those. We're going to break in a couple of minutes, but we'll come back and finish it. One of the things you talk about is, you know, putting plants in there the pollinators like. And again, that just scares people. They say, "What? You mean there's going to be bees in my lawn?" Yeah, but most of the time you don't really have to worry about that. And if you're helping the bees, you're probably doing a good thing, right, Amy?
That's right. Absolutely. I think so. And there are ways to kind of live with your eco lawn without having bees all the time.
So I'm going to go over some of these. We talked about the dog
cool names to some of them.
I know there are some great names. The fleur de lawn. You've got the
say that fleur de lawn.
Fleur de lawn. Arr.
Very good.
Thank you. You've got the Let It Grow grasses. You've got the waterless eco lawn mix. You've got the verdant lawn, and it looks like a guinea pig in the picture there. Is that a guinea pig? What is that?
I think it's a gerbil.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm not sure.
It's a
I think
happy
it's a gerbil.
happy critter.
Hiding in the lawn.
Oh, it looks like a hamster. That might be a hamster.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is a hamster.
Maybe it's a hamster.
There's no difference among those three animals.
And then there's Let It Be. Anomo.
B-E.
Let it be. Yeah, let
Right.
it be.
And so let's talk really briefly about the fleur de lawn. The idea that you're planting a lawn not just to have it perfectly green, but you want some flowering stuff there as well. Tell me a little bit about your fleur de lawns.
Well, fleur de lawn is a special one for us. We've been selling this for almost 30 years. We do have a trademark on that mix, but it features the English daisy, and we love that in a lawn. The daisy sets its bloom very low on the stem, and it also kind of grows somewhat evenly throughout the lawn area, and you can mow it, and the blooms come right back, and people absolutely love it. This is really what started the whole eco lawn trend for us, and we've been testing it now for almost 30 years.
Fantastic. All right. Like I said, we need to break here. We're going to come back to Amy Cox. We're going to give you an assignment, Amy, an actual lawn that needs actual work, and it's the lawn of the person standing next to me here. She's got her hand up in the air. That's Peggy Malecki. We'll be back with Lawn Care right after this. All right, we've got some background music for you here, Peggy. So
Does that mean I have to read quickly?
Yes, better get it done before the end of the music. Here we go. Ready, set, go.
Go. Even gardeners sometimes need a second chance. City Grange, Chicago's newest and most unique garden center, now has fall veggies ready to pop into your kitchen garden for another round of fresh, tasty greens. Asian greens, peas, spinach. If you miss the spring, you get a second chance as the cooler fall temperatures arrive. Grow them in a container for the last fresh-picked salads of the year. So head over to 5500 Northwestern Avenue in Catalpa right now. That's today. As always, there's valet parking on the weekends. Again, today.
Arr.
Citygrange.com. Learn, shop, blossom. Arr.
Arr. We got plenty of time here. Welcome back to the Mike Nowak Show with Peggy Malecki. We've got this is I forget what the name of this group is, but it's the Flying Fingers something. The Lost Fingers. That's what they call it. Yes. All right.
They're here somewhere.
Here we go. And of course the bees in the background.
And the crickets in the background.
There are crickets as well. Well, only when we speak, Peggy. Welcome back. We're talking to Amy Cox, who is with ProTime Lawn Seed, and we're talking about the different kind of interesting mixes. These are not your father's lawn seed mixes. I'm just making you aware of that. And we're going through some of them. We'll give her a problem in a second. But one thing I wanted to point out, Amy, is something that you talk about on your site, the difference between cool season grasses and warm season grasses, and then there's a transition zone. And since this show goes out in stations all over the country, and some of them are in the transition zone, that's a slightly different situation right now, isn't it?
It is, although in the transition zone, you should presumably be able to grow both cool season grasses and warm season grasses. So it's kind of the middle ground.
Do you sell any of the warm season grasses?
We do not.
Okay, so keep that in mind. And the cool season grasses, as advertised, do well in cool weather. So they love the fall, they love the spring.
Well, and they also, I sometimes need to tell people, because they say, well, it gets really hot here up in North Dakota in the summer. Does that work here? Well, it does. It's just the important thing is that we do have a colder or cold winter. That's what the grasses need. They do fine in the heat during the summer. They just need a cold winter as well.
And sometimes they'll go dormant on you in the summer, and generally I tell people, let it go dormant. You don't have to sprinkle it 15 minutes every day in the heat of the sun, and you're rolling your eyes there, Amy, because you see that happen all the time, don't you?
I do. And, you know, a lot of times, too, people in the middle of summer, they'll say, well, I water every day and it's still brown. Well, once grasses, cool season grasses, start to go dormant or are dormant, it's very hard to bring them out of dormancy during the summer. So it's kind of a decision that you need to make. If you don't want your grasses to go dormant and you do want to water to keep it green, you know, make that decision in the late spring and then start a good watering regimen. And that doesn't mean watering every day at all. We really need to water much less frequently, but more deeply when we do water.
And some of your eco mixes were also mentioning yarrow and some of the other plants that stay green, even when the grasses might be going dormant.
That's right. One of the things we love about the eco lawn is that, you know, just allow the grasses to go dormant during the summer, but all the other components, you know, they're going to stay green and give an overall green semblance to your green space, calling it a green space. But then they come right back with fall rains. We certainly have very dry periods here on the West Coast. In the Midwest, that might be a little less important. I know you get those thunderstorms during the summer from time to time. But yeah, just let the grasses go dormant and they'll come back.
Yeah. Several years ago, I had a sponsor, Eco Lawn, and they're actually out of Toronto. You're probably familiar with them. And the owner told me a very interesting thing about alternative lawn care and alternative grasses. And she said, our products do great on the East Coast. Our products do great on the West Coast. It's a battle in the Midwest to get people to switch to an alternative lawn. Do you find that at all, Amy?
You know, I think, you know, our company started obviously here in Portland, and so we have a lot of early adapters here that tested these products and had such great response. But I think the word is really, really spreading. The East Coast as well has been very supportive of this, you know, diversity in lawn species. But we're really starting to see it now in the Chicago area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Louis, actually a huge park in St. Charles County put in our dog park mix for our municipal project. So, you know, people are finding us. We really try to reach out to landscape architects and architects too, to let them know that they could specify these mixes for large institutional projects. And I think they're leading the way because they want to do something different, reduce their, you know, environmental footprint.
That's a really smart way to go to reach out to landscape architects. And if you've got the architect on board, you've gone a long way towards being able to install this, I would think.
And getting
That's
in,
right, yeah.
I was going to say, and getting in with municipalities too, if you're getting the landscape architect involved in bigger things.
And speaking of that,
so when Ryan Anderson was on from Midwest Grows Green, he was talking about some of the eco installation weekends that you guys are involved with, including yesterday there was an Austin eco lawn install here in Chicago.
Actually, I think that one might be today. Do I have that
Actually,
right?
no, that is today.
Sunday,
No, I'm sorry,
2 to
that is
4?
this afternoon. I don't know what day it is.
Oh, my
yes,
goodness.
it's today from 2 to 4, installing a perennial wildflower mix and fleur-de-lawn mix with ProTime lawn seeds for urban pollinators that Midwest Grows Green is doing in 5849 Rice Street in Chicago.
right. So maybe you want to come by and see what kind of mix they have. Of course, you're not going to get to see it bloom.
See the bags.
But
I know they would love to have volunteers out there today, and it is a project supported by Patagonia. So it's exciting to see that
let's
go
give
in.
Patagonia a ding too, and glad they're on board with that. All right, I told you that we'd have a case study for you, and that's Peggy's Parkway. That she wants to put something on there. You just had a core aerated, right?
Yes.
So that's really a great first step, isn't it, Amy?
It is. I always recommend that from the beginning. That's one of the ways that you can make your lawn much more drought tolerant going forward. When you core aerate, you're pulling plugs from the lawn, it really just opens it up so that it can accept water when it rains or when you irrigate.
Now, quick question on those, because I've seen written both ways. Should I leave the plugs on the lawn before putting the seed in, or take them off, rake them off?
You know, I think it depends in this case because you're not trying to backfill the holes with anything. Sometimes there's a soil modifier people might use, or you might be bringing in some new soil. But if you're not doing that, I just leave it on unless you have a lot of weeds. If you've got weeds, maybe you take those
I have
off.
a lot of weeds and a lot of clay.
Then maybe you could rake it off. Then you've got fewer weed seeds up there on the surface.
Well, here's what I would recommend is bring in a layer of sifted compost and throw that down like a quarter to half an inch, and some of that will fall into the holes and it'll give you the air. And then if you want to get rid of some of that clay, you could rake it off because you've replaced that
with the compost.
What do you think, Amy?
I think that's a great idea. We know that just adding just a skimming of a compost can really help with any new lawn installation.
All right. So she's got. Describe your parkway there, Peggy.
So it's your typical parkway, but it's it's actually on the south side of the street, but faces north. Obviously, there are 2 older oaks on it. There's also shade coming from other trees across the street and next door. So it typically will get afternoon sun. A few parts of it will never get any sun. It's next to a street, it's next to a sidewalk, it's next to a driveway. Lots and lots of dogs walking by. And right now it's got a large variety of weeds. Plantains, that sort of stuff.
So where does she start?
Well, the core aeration was a great start. Maybe also mow very short, which you already have, if you have something there to mow. I do tell people, you might go through and take out the weeds that you find are most offensive to you. Some people don't mind, the occasional, plantain or something there because it is green.
Yeah, there are no dandelions.
Take out the worst ones.
Yeah, all the dandelions I've taken out all summer, so they're gone.
See? There you go. So you do that.
All right.
And then give it a good rake with a hard rake just to fluff up that surface, or maybe you've brought in your sifted compost. And that's a good medium to plant into. And then maybe pick a eco lawn that has some diversity in it so that when you see those weeds pop up occasionally, they look a little more intentional and maybe part of the mix instead of when you put down a monoculture, those weeds look pretty obvious.
So which mix is going to handle sun and shade?
And dogs.
Yeah, and dogs. So, all seed likes the sun. So whenever you're shopping for lawn seed, just know if you've got a sunny area, really all seed is going to be okay there. But then if you've got some areas of shade, I like to go ahead and get a shade performing mix because that way you're going to do great in the sun and in the shade. So for Peggy's situation, I think we need to pick a shade performer. And I'd love to get some clovers in there because that's going to fix some nitrogen in there. And a lot of the shade performing mixes, they typically are going to have that fine fescue in there. And it's the fine fescues that are going to handle the shade. The trade-off with fine fescues is maybe they don't take as much wear as, say, a perennial rye or a bluegrass or a tall fescue. But we need them in there for that shade performance, and they're very low feeders. So if you've got the clovers in there fixing nitrogen, it's going to feed the fine fescues and maybe some perennial rye or maybe some tall fescue.
So
the mix? Yeah. So the mix, I think, for Peggy would be the verdant lawn. That's going to have perennial rye, fine fescue, and microclover.
I'm looking for that on your website. Where's the verdant lawn? Is that under...
It's a 764 verdant lawn.
We've got 60 seconds here.
Yeah, so...
It's the one with the hamster.
Oh, it is.
Whatever that is.
There it is. Yeah. Wow, you got a
It's
hamster.
a happy critter.
And you mentioned fescues. Fescues have been sort of the backbone of the new wave of low mow and low grow lawns that you're not going to play soccer on them, but they look great if you just kind of leave them alone.
Yes, the no-mow mixes typically, they are blends of fine fescue, and when you just let them grow, they get this really cool kind of wind-tossed effect, and they're very low maintenance. They are not heavy feeders, so yeah.
There we go, and once established, not as much water either.
That's right. Very drought tolerant.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Amy Cox. Go to ptlawnseed.com. We're getting a mix for Peggy. We're going to put it in. We'll see what happens. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Be better after Tuesday night on the river.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
He
because
just texted us. So
the creek is rising. In fact, let's talk to meteorologist Rick DeMaio in person. Rick, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Peg. You got that right, and that's not good news for students, faculty, teachers, anybody who's trying to do something at Oakland Community College. The Des Plaines campus has been closed since yesterday.
Wow.
Closed again today. Yeah, and again, I don't know how many times we've told them you got to do something about the infrastructure around Central Road on the north side of that campus. It floods all the time. Can't do anything about Golf Road. You can't do anything about Golf Road. Golf Road, it's right up against the river there, and it actually has to go underneath the freight line. But you can do something to Central. And I've actually had a few environmental teachers come up to me and say, hey, when are you going to start to tell these people they need to do something about it? I'm like, I have for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's crickets. Every year it's crickets. Well, we got through the springtime. Well, we got through the summertime.
And then it happens again.
What has been some of our worst flooding now? In the fall, right?
Well, this week, Lake County had more than 8 inches of rain this week. I had another half inch overnight on top of 8 inches.
Yeah. And on top of that, Peg, I think it's largely due to the fact that we've seen our Septembers and how early Octobers become warmer and more humid, and it's directly related to how much activity occurs in the tropics. We saw it even back in 2008 when we had Hurricane Ike and Hurricane Gustav move across the northern suburbs, flooded out parts of O'Hare Field. When was that? That was September 8th and September 15th. And every year it's like, well, we got through the spring. Well, we got through the summer. We don't have to do anything about it. And it's just basically like closing your eyes and having your fingers crossed. So there are some very, very nervous people running the Oakland Community College campus, hoping that they can open up by Monday morning. But after looking at those recent river rises, Peg and Mike, and the amount of rain that came down overnight, I don't think it's going to open up. I think it's not looking good for them tomorrow.
I was just playing your response there from Oakton. Little crickets here. But it's interesting, Rick. The other day, Peggy and I were comparing notes, and you had the rain gauge 2 days in a row that had more than 3 inches of rain in it.
3.5 overnight Wednesday after the really nasty weather that came through with the tornado warnings, and then Thursday night was 4.5 inches, and last night was 1 inch.
And it was interesting that night that Peggy, the first night with the tornado warnings, I'm sitting at home, I'm watching TV, and then tornado warning comes on my television. And they're saying there's a tornado warning for parts of Cook County and Lake County and McHenry.
And I'm texting you that warning sirens are going off.
What?
Yeah, they never said Cook County.
It did, because that's what caught my attention. I wish I had a screenshot of it.
Wow.
But
it wasn't Fort Cook County. That's kind of odd, but whatever.
Yeah, I know, because then immediately I went to the radar, and I saw this little blob going across, and I thought, well, that's not very spectacular.
And it wasn't, and it never. I mean, a tornado never formed, but it got pretty close to it. There was some good, shear on one side and shear on the other side, and probably on a scale of 1 to 10, it was probably a 1. And I think what probably prompted that warning was a couple of storm chasers caught what appeared to be a funnel cloud and a really nice rotating wall cloud, and they sent that to the Weather Service, and that along with the confirmation from the radar and the fact that they totally missed the one the week before, I think they said, let's put this out and hope for the best at this point. And you know what? Those are the hardest ones to warn for.
Yeah.
Every meteorologist will tell you it's best to have a lot of good confirmation, then you feel good about the warning. But the ones that don't develop and don't develop and don't develop, and you have to keep the warning up, those are the ones you get nailed on. It's like, well, what were you thinking? Why'd you have it out so long? Well, as soon as it touches down, you go, I'm glad I had it out. So that's a really tough call on their part.
The issue, Rick, though, was it set off the tornado sirens in all of the municipalities, and some of them waited, some of them went for long amounts of time, and some of them were very short.
And it still shows you, Peg and Mike, that we have a really, really big problem with setting off sirens. The National Weather Service does not set off sirens. That's the local emergency managers, that's the local townspeople, that's the mayors, that's people who get finger happy. I don't know why those sirens went off as long as they did, And quite frankly, they should have never went off because there's never a confirmation of a tornado. So the only time a tornado warning siren is supposed to go off is if there's actually a sighting of a tornado.
Right.
Otherwise, you would have sirens going off all the time just because there's a warning. There's a reason why you have the warning, which then alerts the emergency managers for the possibility of a siren. Two different things.
And Peggy pointed out to me that she had lightning sirens going off.
We have lightning sirens all the time.
And I have never even heard a lightning siren in the city of Chicago. I'm not even sure that they exist here. But it sounds like they're kind of siren happy up there in your neck of the woods. I don't know. And
you know what? And I was up at the College of Lake County on Friday, and there were some students that said, yeah, I was trying to do my job. I was working at a restaurant, and they just kept us downstairs for a half hour. I'm like, a half hour for that? So I don't know. I was kind of shocked by that. But again, getting back to the business at hand here, this is something that myself and a couple other environmental science teachers came to the university, or the college rather, and said, you guys have got to do something about it. And every year, there's this like, well, we're not sure, because I think part of it has to do with the state of Illinois and then the Department of Natural Resources. Yeah, we're talking about Oak Street Community College then. So, and it's all for the better of the students and the faculty, is to get the news out and also have some sort of a plan to stop the waters rising. And I don't think they've done that yet.
And the other thing that happened that was really odd was that Peggy shows me the 3 inches one night, and then the second night I had like 1.25 inches in the city.
Right.
It was quite localized.
Right. Well, it's not so much localized, but where is the rain falling? Because Monday night, there was almost 3 inches of rain across northern Lake County up into southern areas of Wisconsin. So if you look at the map, and the maps I sent you, nearly 10 inches of rain fell in highly localized areas in Walworth and Racine County, or in Kenosha County, rather, and extreme northern Lake and McHenry. And where does the rivers flow? From north to south. So oftentimes you're sitting here in Cook County with 1 inch of rain, you go, I think we're fine. But the water flows south, and you'll only think that there's actually a big fire going on if there's smoke coming out from underneath your oven at that point. You know, you got to be able to think. You got to be able to think that the stuff is happening elsewhere. And I still don't think their mindset is in that particular realm of thinking.
Maybe not. All right. So what is it looking like moving forward here now that we've had all these crazy rains?
Well, it does look like the rain gauges will probably hold steady out for at least another 36 to 48 hours. Not good news for people trying to get across the river, across Central and Gulf Road. Other roads should be fine. This is not major flooding, but it is flooding. Tropical storm Umberto expected to become a hurricane, but being north of the Bahamas, no problem there. Warm and humid. Maybe another rain shower or two coming through late this afternoon, but warm and humid weather all the way through Saturday, and then much, much colder next Sunday as we finally head into meteorological fall. Notice I didn't say climatological.
Meteorological fall, not climatological. And
right.
Are we going to see any more hurricane development?
You know what? There's quite a bit of activity over the next 2 weeks, but it looks like at this point it stays south of the southeast part of the United States. So good news there, Mike and Peg.
All right. Thank you so much, Rick. Well, we'll talk to you soon. Oh, I guess he's gone. So
he's gone.
That's what happened. Hey, Rick? Okay. Thanks for everybody who was on the show today. Jerry Brown and Tom Shepard, Amy Cox, Rick DeMaio. Thanks, Ellie. Thanks, Andrew. Until next time, go green or
go home.
Stadler? What? Is that it? Yes, it's over. How'd you like it? I don't know. I slept through the whole thing. Well, you didn't miss much.